Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, it's great, except I'm concerned, or you're concerned. Someone is concerned, and I know because of the title of today's show.
Yeah, I got some concerns. Lots of concerns about you people, and you're going to hear it. Now, this is more Ohio State position-based, and we're going to talk about the offensive line today. An offensive line that you and I both believe is going to be pretty darn good and was almost good enough last year until they weren't. And so the lessons that they've learned from last year, the scars and all of that, you'd figure will be put to good use this year. But there are some concerns. And I think the first one is the biggest one, is the one that everybody has, is the one that we don't even know if it's necessarily a question that is going to be answered, but we assume it will. Tom, the concern here is Ian Moore ready? And when I say is Ian Moore ready to be the left tackle? And is Tyler Bowen ready to make him the left tackle? And is everybody ready to move somebody, an established starter from left tackle inside and open up this can of unknown? So that to me is a concern. I think it's a concern, but I think the answer is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. But until you see it and you know for sure, yeah, it's a concern.
And I think this is almost to me more of a question than a concern, because this is not a load-bearing Ian Moore where if you don't have Ian Moore starting at left tackle, then all hope is lost and there's no other potential solutions. They mm-hmm. have plenty of other ways they can go about this if he's not ready. But I do think this is absolutely a fair question to have right now this time of year. And I think even going back to the spring, I have kind of consistently thought that the best possible 2026 Ohio State offensive line involves Ian Moore at left tackle, probably. Because I think if you can have, if they feel comfortable enough about Ian Moore at left tackle, you don't need to move Austin Siereveld. Austin Siereveld did a perfectly good job at left tackle last year. If they feel comfortable enough with Ian Moore at left tackle, then that means they're feeling really good about left tackle, and you can put Austin Siereveld in at probably right guard would be where I would expect him to slot in. I think Philip Daniels is probably staying at right tackle at this point. If you have that, then you're probably feeling pretty good about Luke Montgomery at left guard. You're feeling pretty good about Carson Hinzman at center. Austin Siereveld, you've seen what you needed out of Austin Siereveld to know this is a good Big Ten starter at the very least. And if he's in the guard, if he's inside at a guard spot, that probably accentuates what you get out of him. Philip Daniels was a starter last year who, was maybe thrown in a year before we were expecting him to be and was solid there. But if you're feeling really good about Ian Moore at left tackle, and you've got the interior of the line that you had, that we just talked about, and you got Philip Daniels at right tackle, that's a pretty good line. Now, did I just step on probably multiple of Tony's other potential topics? Yes. Am I just realizing that now? Yes. But Tony, go ahead. What are your other concerns? Have I assuaged them all now, or do we need to continue the show?
No, we can wrap up. We're good. We've done it. You've said it all, Tom. But when you are talking about Philip Daniels, that is another concern. Now, the good news is he went through a year last year where he started every game, except for one where he was injured, and he's going to be better for that. Like most people who finally get some experience and they get to show what they've learned. This is no longer the first time they're doing everything. So yes, they should be better. As you said, he was a year ahead of schedule. Basically, I think I would be surprised if Tyler Bowen or Ryan Day thought they were bringing in a starter last year. Maybe once they saw more of Ethan Onianwa, then they're like, well, Philip Daniels has got to start. But Philip Daniels won the job because of the way he played. So he had no intention of giving it up. Clearly had no intention of giving up right tackle at this point, it seems like. But he does need to be better. And I don't think anybody would dispute that. I also don't dispute the fact that he should be better. It's kind of a rare player that just the best they're ever going to be is as a redshirt sophomore. Like, I don't that's not something that I would subscribe to. So I would expect him to get better. Is it going to be good enough? How much better did he need to be last year? Was he terrible? No, he was pretty good. So a little bit better than that would seem to be good enough, but it's certainly a question. And the other thing is, would Ohio State, the offensive line, be better if he was inside? So I think there's some concern. It would be foolish to not mention Philip Daniels here when we're talking about concerns, because relative to everybody else, it's hard to ignore the way things ended last year.
Yeah, no question. And there were issues all across that offensive line last year. And there were a bunch of issues on the right side of that offensive line last year. And I know a lot of the fingers got pointed at Tager Shabola, but a lot of times there were people going between Tager Shabola and Philip Daniels. And, the fingers kind of got pointed at Tager, but it was Philip Daniels adjacent. You watched a bunch of Philip Daniels in his redshirt freshman season at Minnesota. How big of a jump did he take from that redshirt freshman year to his redshirt sophomore year?
Yeah, I think quite a big jump, because he started those last 4 games and it was almost out of desperation. And he was a redshirt freshman and they threw him out there and wasn't super mobile, but then he did what he could. And then you saw him this past year, look more like a football player, a technician, and certainly has the mentality and the physicality. But yeah, there was certainly growth from that year to last year.
And so I think it would be reasonable to assume you may not have exactly the same level of a leap from year 1 as a starter to year 2 as a starter as you did from 4 games to your first full year as a starter, but you're going to see more progress there. This is someone who did not peak in his first appearance on the field. So, it's probably this may be, is this a Josh Simmons kind of progression where he had all those penalties at San Diego State, and then he comes to Ohio State and everyone's kind of going, oh boy, what are they getting with this guy? And then he was perfectly serviceable his first year and then turned into, basically a first round caliber player the next year before he got hurt. I don't know that Philip Daniels is going to be a first round pick, but I think he's someone who you saw that sort of jump as you went from you more than met the standard of your new place after you kind of jumped up a level or 2 in the sport. Philip Daniels did that last year, sort of ahead of schedule. So I think there's certainly more in there. And as you said, he doesn't need to get leaps and bounds better. It's just, can you just kind of continue to grow, continue to improve, just be a little bit better than you were last year? And that probably answers this question.
And then based on the way the season ended, for the next concern here is, can this offensive line handle movement? Can they handle the quick movement? I think that's one of the lasting impressions of the offensive line. I know a lot of people will be like, we'll just, remember Reuben Bain and the other fella running around at defensive end, just going around the tackles. But there was the Indiana game, the Miami game, the twist, the stunts, those things, the quick defensive tackles, getting in there. These are all things that we talked with the offensive linemen in the spring, and they said, this is all stuff that they've been working on. This is all stuff that they were there. They remember it. They know exactly what happened, and they've heard about it. So they've had to continue hearing about it. They know there are people out there who doubt them. That's only going to make them all come together, in terms of the cohesion of a room. But there are still concerns, because the last time we saw them dealing with this, it did not go well. Good news is there's plenty of film to correct with those things, and it's not like this was a secret, because we knew about it going into that game, that there were issues with that over the course of the season. We had seen it. And so the concern here is, are they able to fix it? Do they know how to fix it? These are all professionals. You add Arthur Smith into the mix. There's certainly an awareness of what needs to be done and how to do it. Can the players do it? That's one of those things where it comes down to coaching, scheme, or the player themselves at this point, whether things can or can't get done. So I think the good news is they went through it all last year. So none of anything they see this year will be new. They will still see talented defensive linemen, and they'll have to match up against and schemes. I think so. Just being able to handle those quick schemes is another concern.
And I think that's a very legitimate one, because you have seen this specific group struggle with this specific issue. Now, these are guys who are veterans. All the names we've talked about are guys who have been on this team for a couple of years now. They're all guys who have mostly, outside of Ian Moore, everyone else has started for this team. And, they should be, between having veteran guys who have been part of the system, who have worked together. We talk all the time about the necessity of cohesion within the offensive line. These guys have all worked together next to each other for years now. So that's a huge, huge benefit. You don't have guys who are, okay, I got to learn the playbook. They know the playbook. It's fine. You've got Arthur Smith there, who has kind of a background in this basic area and has had to do it at the NFL level, where, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. You're probably facing more complicated stuff and more different looks, and you have to deal with more different stuff. So, this might be a little like Matt Patricia last year, where it's just kind of like, hey, I've seen this before. And, you have the playbook, the experience to just kind of go, yeah, I've seen this before. Bill Belichick did this to us in 2017. And so here's what we did to that. And so you kind of have a Rolodex of answers, and then it's just, okay, can you teach these guys? And these are veteran guys. These are smart guys. Like we talk to these guys all the time. These are not dummies. These are smart players who are experienced. It's all kind of, you kind of have answers for all of the, well, what if they do this? It's like, well, I don't know that there's a reason to think they can't do this. They have sort of immediate responses to a lot of that stuff. So again, I think this is a legitimate question. I think this is a legitimate concern. Maybe there are communication issues. Maybe there are, this guy's feet aren't quick enough. Maybe there are whatever. Like, there are ways that this doesn't happen, but I feel like you have potential answers to all of those questions as you're sort of going through and trying to pick holes in what could go wrong with this offensive line.
And there are also potential answers at every position should something happen to somebody. And so I'm not concerned, I guess, about the depth overall. That's assuming that guys step up who have been around for a while, and the young talent that is there is ready to go when their name is called. But we've seen over the years, you're going to need more than 5, and Ohio State has more than 5. But they've got to be ready. And sometimes it's in 2024, it takes a couple of turns before you figure out exactly the right way to go. And that I'll finish with my last concern here, which is maybe just the whole thing of how long does it take them to find their best offensive line? And that was a thing where when Josh Simmons went down, we said your best offensive line has Donovan Jackson at left tackle. Except they didn't do that because they didn't, or Donovan Jackson didn't want to do it, or they didn't want to do it. They put Zen Mahalski out there. It did not work. And so now they finally figured it out. How long does it take them to figure out their best offensive line? And we can sit here and say, well, obviously it's Ian Moore at left tackle, and it's Philip Daniels at right tackle, and Austin Siereveld at right guard. Maybe it's not. And maybe they try that and it doesn't work, or maybe they don't try that and it takes them a little while before they're like, all right, let's just do that instead because Josh Padilla is not working out at right guard or whatever. I think the concern there is just like, how quickly will they find the right 5 that they want to go with?
Yeah, and I mean, they did not get a chance to see, for example, Josh Padilla at right guard this spring because he has missed a bunch of times. So I'm sure that you're going to want to have this, explore this into fall camp a little bit. They are able to do some things right now. There are NCAA rules about the specifics of what you can and can't do, but they can get 5 offensive linemen out there against 4 defensive linemen and a couple linebackers and just kind of go. And that's something you can do and sort of evaluate this time of year. So, this is not like everyone's going to show up on the first day of camp with their new backpacks and be like, oh, well, I haven't seen you guys since the spring game. How was your summer? These are questions that are probably in the process of getting answered right now. And this is a group that is veteran enough that I don't know that there is only one answer here. That this could drag on a little bit because there are multiple potential good answers. And it's just, okay, if Austin Siereveld is the best option at right guard, but he's also maybe the best option at left tackle, which one do you know, where is the gap? Who is your best five? Does it involve Ian Moore at left tackle? Does it involve Josh Padilla at right guard? Does it involve Gabe VanSickle at right guard? Does it involve Jake Cook at right guard? I mean, you've got all sorts of possibilities here. I think there are good options everywhere. And this is not something that I'm expecting to go into mid-September, early October, where, oh boy, I don't know, they're shuffling the offensive line again. This is a situation where you can go through your first week or maybe even 2 weeks of fall camp, sort of figure out who your five is. And if you know by August 15th and you've got a couple weeks, you're going to have had these guys working together in whatever that combination is anyway. And I'm sure they're going to be doing the 2 practice fields thing that they've been doing a bunch anyway. So you're going to get all sorts of reps with these different guys. So again, this is a potential concern. It's certainly a question, but I think that there are enough answers here that are reasonable, good answers that I don't think they're going to get to week 1 and go, oh no, this is surprisingly terrible for some reason.
What have we done? So those are some concerns that I have. If you want to go ahead and throw your concerns, if you're watching on YouTube, throw your concerns in there. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? I know you do. If some of you out there want to play devil's advocate and disagree with me, even though I know you don't, feel free to do that as well. We will check those comments out. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so. If you're looking to find us on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. And of course, you can find us at BuckeyeInsiders.com either right now, based on when I drop this video, or very, very soon. Either way, it is imminent. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.